بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. We've been studying the concept of mourning, and we said that the essence of mourning is to feel sad over the loss of a dear one and then express it in a public way. And then there can be different forms and manners of expressing that. Those forms by themselves are not necessarily sacred, are not necessarily religious. They can be very cultural. But what is very important and should not compromise about it is the essence, which is sadness. And this sadness can only come when there is understanding. There is ma'rifah. This understanding, as we explained, has different levels. Understanding of what has happened in that tragedy, for example, like tragedy of Karbala. And I think, as we explained, what has happened in that tragedy is something that makes every human being very deeply sad. If they just know what has happened, they definitely will feel sympathetic and will deeply feel sad for the victims or for those who were treated without justice. But then there is a higher level, and that is if you believe, if you are a believer and you see that what has happened to the master of the believers, who is a grandson of the Prophet, you will feel more sad. And then this understanding can increase and increase for a lover of Imam Hussein and a Shia of Hussein, because the connection between a lover and the beloved, between a follower and the leader, which we call it Velaya, is so strong that is more than the love that you have for yourself or for your children. So if you lose your child, you would not feel that sad that when you lose your Imam. Then we try to explain what type of understanding we should have of Imam, or as we have in Hadith, what does it mean to be arifan bihaqqih? So we explained this concept of arifan bihaqqih, and we said that this is not just to know the right of Imam, it means to acknowledge the right of Imam, to practice that. And this haqq is connected to knowing what type of regard he has to receive, what type of vilayah he has, because in some hadith says بِحَقِّهِ وَحُرْمَتِهِ وَوِلَايَتِهِ. And last night I explained that one of the things that shows that you have regard for Imam is that no matter whether he is physically with us or not, because you know that he is aware of your action, you have to be very careful. You must not commit any sin or any ugly action, even if you cannot see your Imam by your physical eyes. You know that Imam is aware. You know that the Prophet will be reported about our action. And of course, on top of everyone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing us all the time. So a mu'min must have such an understanding and such a regard for his Imam. Then we said that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have asked us to take into account this famous hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is narrated by all Muslims from across Islam, that whoever dies without knowing imam or leader of his or her time is like the one who has died in the time of ignorance. And we explained that, and I want to expand on that, but I want to read first another hadith so that if someone was not there last night also would be aware of what we've been discussing, and then we'll expand on this concept of knowing imam of the time. This is in Al-Kafi, volume 1, page 371. سمعت أبا جعفر عليه السلام. The narrator says, I heard Imam Baqir alayhi salam saying, من مات وليس له إمام فميتته ميتة جاهلية. The one who dies without knowing imam of his age, his death is like the death of the time of Jahiliyyah. Indeed, it doesn't say it's like that, it says it's exactly that. وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَهُوَ عَارِفٌ لِإِمَامٍ. And the one who dies while he knows his imam, لَمْ يَضُرَّهُ تَقَدَّمَ هَذَا الْأَمْرُ أَوْ تَأَخَّرَ. It doesn't harm him whether the advent of imam is made earlier or it's delayed. That's not the big issue. It's not that much important whether you are actually witnessing that time or not. What is important is that you are in right condition and you have proper understanding of what your imam wants. Even if you are not able to be actually there, you are counted as one of those who are at that time. And inshallah I will explain this, that in Islam we have this concept that you can go beyond the time. I can be here but belong to a community that lived 1,000 years ago, or a community that is going to come after 10,000 years. I can be really a member of that community. You can always go beyond time. So, if you know imam, and if you fulfill the requirements of being a good follower, لَمْ يَضُرَّهُ تَقَدَّمَ هَذَا الْأَمْرُ أَوْ تَأَخَّرَ. Whether this is delayed, the advent of imam is delayed or is made early. وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَهُوَ عَارِفٌ لِإِمَامِهِ. The one who dies while he knows his imam, كَانَ كَمَنْ هُوَ مَعَلْ. The name, a special name of the 12th imam, فِي فُسْطَاتِهِ. The one who knows his imam and dies is like the one who is actually with imam and in his camp, in his tent. So, if a mu'min today dies without seeing imam, without being able to serve the imam, but is a good mu'min and has ma'rifah, has knowledge, understanding of imam, it doesn't make any difference for him that he was not actually seeing imam and serving imam. He has served imam before imam comes. Kama kaman huwa ma'a. He is like the one who is with the uprising one, fi fusṭatihi, in his tent, in his camp. Okay, so what is the significance of this? It's not, I think, very difficult to understand, but to make it very clear, what is the significance of knowing imam of your time? And some people, I think, unfortunately take it not that much seriously. They say, okay, we know imam of our time. We know that he is the 12th imam. This is his name. This is his title. This is his nickname. This is the father's name. Progeny of the Prophet, of Lady Fatima. This is what he is going to achieve. So they think this is enough. This is not enough. This is a knowledge which was available from the time of the Prophet. If it was enough, so instead of saying Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam al-zamane, they should have said Man mata wa lam ya'rif al-a'imma, the one who dies without knowing imams. If it was enough just to know that much, so they could have said, you must know all the imams. This is not enough. Or why they say, Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam al-zamanihi, they could have said, Man mata wa lam ya'rif imamahu, the one who dies without knowing his imam. Why they say imam of his time? This shows that this must be dynamic. This is not something static. You cannot get stuck with any time. Something very important for us, especially in the school of Ahlul Bayt in Islam, is that we must always be vital and dynamic. We never get stuck with any historical condition. With respect to Imam, you have to be always up to date. With respect to marja, you have to be always up to date. Even if you want to follow your marja who has passed away, you have to get permission from a qualified living marja. You cannot follow your dead marja without having permission from a living marja. And when it comes to paying your khums, you have to pay it to the living marja. When new issues arise, you have to refer to the living marja. And also, if you look at it carefully, it means that to stay with the dead marja can be only for one generation. So we don't have in Shia Islam the concept of following an alim who lived 100 years ago, 200 years ago. The maximum is one generation with the permission of the living marja. Not more than that. Why? Because you have to be up to date. No matter how great is that marja, when he passes away, his connection with time and the requirement of time is over. So Shia must always be looking for living personalities that can undertake this great responsibility. And alhamdulillah, this has kept us always on the right track. So, what is important is to know the Imam of our time. And I want to say that this is consisting of these items. First, you must know your Imam in person, not just some vague idea that there is a person who has these qualities. No, you must know him as a person with all his details. You must know his identity, his name, his family, his place of birth, his date of birth, everything you must know. First. Second, you must know the character of your Imam. If I know just the information about his life and identity and his biography without knowing his character, I cannot follow him. How can you follow someone without knowing what type of person he is? You must know what type of person he is, what type of noble traits of character he has. This is very important. Unfortunately, in many cases, our knowledge of Imams are very limited. Especially we people of Akhir al-Zaman have to have the best knowledge of Imams compared to the people of other times. Do you know why? Because for them, if they had any ambiguity, they could have asked Imams themselves directly or indirectly. For us, there is no such a possibility. We cannot ask Imam directly, and there is no bab, or there is no gate, there is no one that can say, I have communication with Imam. Everyone who says this is a liar. What we need to do is we have to have so much understanding, either ourselves or among us, the qualified ulama, that without having any communication with Imam, they know enough from the past, from the literature, from the heritage that we have, that what Imam wants. So our generation must know so much about the lives of the Prophet and Imams that can find the answer for any possible question today or tomorrow. When I refer to the knowledge that we have about some of the Imams, I feel it's very sad. How much we know about the 9th Imam, or the 10th Imam, or the 11th Imam. We know very little. I'm saying, in general, I'm not saying every person, but in general. Even when it comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, most of the time, we study only the last few weeks of the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Normally we start with Imam's journey from Medina to Mecca, and Mecca towards Kufa, being stopped in Karbala. So Imam Hussein lived for 57 years, but how much we cover? Just the last few weeks. And in many cases we don't understand why Imam made those decisions, because we don't know what was Imam doing in those 57 years. It's like giving someone a book and that person is not patient. So he doesn't feel that he needs, but he doesn't feel that he needs to read all the chapters. He jumps to the last few pages and wants to understand what is the content of the book. If you want to understand properly, you have to start from the introduction, and then the first chapter, second chapter. If you want to know why Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood against Yazid, and what was he looking for, what was his aims, what he expects from his followers, you have to start from the beginning of his life. And of course, this book is not the first volume of the series. This is the 5th volume of a series of 14. So you have to start from the first volume. You have to start with the Prophet. So we must read so well and so much master 13 volumes that now you can imagine what would be in the 14th volume. What the person who is not physically with us wants from us. This type of knowledge is something that if you have, it doesn't harm you whether you are able to physically be with Imam or not. لم يضره تقدم هذا الأمر أو تأخر. Whether it is delayed or not, it doesn't make difference, because you are doing your responsibility. One of the things that I think we have to consider about the concept of having Imam as a role model is that there are 2 ways of having a role model. This is something that I want to share with you. This is the first time I'm saying this in public. So I hope you don't find it difficult to accept. There are 2 ways of having a role model. You know that without having role models, it's very difficult to understand what should we do. Therefore, always when they want to educate people, especially they want to educate them morally, spiritually, they give them some role models. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentions some role models for us, some examples. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that one of the examples for believers is the wife of Fir'aun. ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا in Surah Tahrim, end of Surah Tahrim. Allah gives example for those who are believers. One is Imra'at Fir'aun, one is Maryam ibnata Imran. One is the wife of Fir'aun, one is Lady Mary. These two ladies are mentioned as two examples. The wife of Fir'aun, despite being in the palace of Fir'aun, and despite being forced by Fir'aun to observe all the rules and laws of Fir'aun, she was a very pious lady. Very pious and very understanding. She said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she prayed to God, Rabbi ibn li indaka baytan fil jannah. Oh Allah, please build for me a house in heaven next to you, close to you. This is a very high position. I explained, what does it mean to be close to Allah, because not all the levels of heaven are at the same distance from Allah. وَنَجَّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ وَنَجَّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Please save me from Fir'aun and his bad actions and from the unjust people. A lady in such society in which Fir'aun is ruling, and next to Fir'aun, has such understanding that she can be an example. So if she managed to be pious, it means that every woman and every man, because Allah says alladhina amanu, doesn't say only women. Every man and woman can be pious in most difficult conditions. I don't think anyone can say our condition is more difficult than her. Or the Lady Mary is an example. When she protected her chastity, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave from himself a blessing to her, and that was Jesus. These are examples. In addition to giving examples, Allah gives role models, which is somehow different. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In the Prophet, in the Messenger of God, there is for you a good role model. This is general. It's not about saying something or doing one thing and asking for another thing, as we have for the lady, for example, wife of Pharaoh. No, it's very general. Because the Prophet is infallible, so from every aspect he's a role model. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Or in Abraham, Allah Nabiyana wa alayhi wa salam, Allah says there is an example for you. So, we have role models. For sure, the best role models are the prophets and the imams. But there are two ways of benefiting from these role models. One way, which we always think in this way, is that I look at them in their context, in their time and space, what did they do, and understand their actions, their performance, their sayings, their conduct, and then try to make a judgment that how those appeal to me. This is a very important process. If you understand their life, but you don't realize how they appeal to you, you feel that this is irrelevant. You hear sometimes people say, how can they be my role model? We live in the 21st century. They lived, for example, 14 centuries ago or 2,000 years ago, like Jesus. How can they be our role models? They don't understand that they have to learn the values and the principles that they observe in their life, and those values and those principles then can be taken out of that context and be applied to us. Because the principles and values are the same. If chastity was good for Lady Mary, chastity is good also today. It doesn't make any difference. If you want to look at, for example, the food that they used to eat, or the type of, for example, language they used to speak, these may not be applicable to us, because that is not principle, that is not value. Those are secondary issues. Those are cultural issues. But the principles, the values, they are transcultural. And they can be taken from one culture and applied to another culture. This is the way that we should do, and normally we understand it this way. So, today, we all can look at Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, and take her as a role model and see how can I follow her today. This is the way we look at it. I think there is a second way of explaining this, which is much more profound. A role model must not be kept in his or her context, and then I just generalize some of the values from his or her conduct and apply it to myself. This is not, I think, enough. You have to know your role model that much that you can imagine that he or she lives today and what he or she is going to do today. You have to have such understanding of Lady Fatima Zahra that you can understand if she was alive today, what she would do and what she would ask you to do. So you have to bring her to your time. Not that you go into her time and remain there or try to get something and come back. No, bring her entire personality to your time. This is very profound concept. In this way, you can have in your time, in your town, in your community, all good role models of history. You can have all of them with you. One of the things that we say in du'as, like for example, one of the du'as is Ziyarat Ashura. We say, أسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقنا البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة. How can we today be with all the Ahlul Bayt in dunya? How can we be with them? يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة. How can we be with them? To be with them means to have such understanding of them that you feel they are present, they are with you, and they have clear instructions for you. You remember the other hadith that I mentioned, that the people of Akhir al-Zaman, for them, ghiba, occultation, or presence doesn't make any difference. They have such an understanding. You remember that hadith. صارت الغيبة عندهم بمنزلة المشاهدة. So we have to know that type of knowledge of Imams and the Prophet, that we feel they are today with us. This has a great impact on our performance. First of all, we will become very careful. If we believe that all the ma'sumin are with us, then we don't, do any mischief. We don't, do anything stupid. We don't become lazy. And then we will all work together. We have only one community of the believers. We don't have many communities of believers. If there are many divided communities, they cannot be all claiming that they are community of the faithful. There is only one community of faithful. We have to be together. If we are together, we are that community. If we are divided, maximum one of them can be the right one. Otherwise, the rest are not able to claim that. Because there is only one imam, one community. If the community is divided, so the maximum is that one of them is with imam, not more than one. This is very obvious. But if we are united, then that is the community of imam. So we should have this amount of understanding and knowledge that we know what would our imam do, want at this time. I want to make an example. Maybe this example makes it somehow better understandable. Imagine you are, for example, working for an organization. If you work for an organization, it doesn't make difference whether you work in the headquarters or in a branch which may be thousands of miles away. For example, you may work for the United Nations and they may send you for a mission to a remote island in the, I don't know, for example, Pacific Ocean. As long as you are connected with the headquarters, you know the aims and objectives, you feel that instructions must come there and you have to be accountable for your performance. You cannot do whatever you like. You are counted as one of them. Although thousands of miles you may be away. Or you work for a scientific organization, they may send you even to another planet. But still, they take you as one of them. Why? Because you are answerable to them, you listen to them. You don't say, I am independent, I decide for myself. As long as you are dependent on them and connected to them, receiving instructions, giving back reports, a mutual communication, you are one of them. But suppose there is someone in the building of the United Nations in New York, at the headquarters, but this person does not have any communication with them, does not get any instruction from them, does not give report back to them, they would say, this is not one of us. So who is he? He is a visitor. He has just come as a tour. Or maybe he's a thief. He has come to steal something. He is not one of us. So, connection is not a matter of distance. Connection is not also a matter of time. Time is not important. Look at this beautiful hadith. This is in Nahjul Balagha. After the battle of Jamal, the camel, one of the people in the camp of Imam Ali alayhi salam said, "Wadattu anna akhi fulanan kana shahadana." I wish my brother so and so was with us. Okay? His brother was not in the battle. They won the battle. He said, I wish my brother was here. لِيَرَى مَا نَصَرَكَ اللَّهُ بِهِ عَلَىٰ أَعْدَائِكَ, so that he could see how Allah made you victorious over your enemies. Imam Ali alayhi salam asked him one question. أَهَوَى أَخِيكَ مَعَنَا, is your brother's love with us? Does he love us? Is he concerned about us? He said, Naam. Yes, he is a person who has the same understanding as us. He loves you, he supports you. Then Imam said, فَقَدْ شَهِدَنَا. So he was here. He physically was not there, but he had the same understanding, the same commitment, the same loyalty. Imam says, فَقَدْ شَهِدَنَا. Okay, this is for a person who lived at that time but was in another place. But the second part is about a person who lives in another time. فَقَدْ شَهِدَنَا وَلَقَدْ شَهِدَ فِي أَسْكَرِنَا هَذَا قَوْمٌ فِي أَصْلَابِ الرِّجَالِ وَأَرْحَامِ النِّسَاءِ. Not only your brother was here, there are also people with us today that still they are in the wombs of their mothers. Still they are not born. سَيَرْعَفُ بِهِمُ الزَّمَانِ. Time will gradually bring them to this dunya. وَيَقْوَى بِهِمُ الْإِيمَانِ. And faith by them will become strong. So me and you, if we have the same understanding that the people who were with Imam Ali had at that time, we are counted as those who were participants in that battle. There is another hadith about the opposite. There can be people who come later, but they are counted as a member of the army of Yazid. This is also possible. This is a hadith which is narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The narrator is Muhammad ibn al-Arqat. He says, Imam asked me, Tanzilul Kufa, do you go and stay in Kufa? Imam Sadiq is at least, you can say, 3 generations after Karbala. Yeah? The 6th Imam, that was the 3rd Imam. He said, Tanzilul Kufa, you go to Kufa? Qultu na'am. I said, yes. Imam said, فَتَرَوْنَ قَتَلَةَ الْحُسَيْنِ بَيْنَ أَظْهُرِكُمْ. So you see the killers of Hussein in Kufa? قُلْتُ جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ مَا بَقِيَ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدٌ. I told him, may I be your ransom? None of them is left. He didn't get the point. He said, none of them is left. It's now 3 generations. They all have gone. قال فإذا أنت لا ترى القائل فإذا أنت لا ترى القاتل إلا من قتل أو من ولي القتل. So you don't think that killer is except the one that who has actually killed. You think that the killer is the one who has killed, so you say they have all gone. No, this is not Islamic understanding. This is not rational understanding. Alam tasma' ila qawlillah. Haven't you listened to this verse of the Quran? قُلْ قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِّن قَبْلِي بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَبِالَّذِي قُلْتُمْ فَلِمَ قَتَلْتُمُوهُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses a faith community that didn't believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they, were bringing excuses. We want this, we want that. So Allah says, tell them before than me also previous prophets came and you didn't believe in them. Why you killed them? Allah refers to Isa. Why did you kill Jesus? The people who were in Medina didn't actually kill Jesus. But they had the same understanding as those who were involved in killing of Jesus. So Allah says, فَلَمَا قَتَلْتُمُهُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Why did you kill the prophets? فَأَيَّ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ قَتَلَ الَّذِينَ كَانَ مُحَمَّدٌ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ بَيْنَ أَظْهُرِهِمْ. Which prophet those people in Medina that were living with the Prophet Muhammad had killed? They themselves had not killed any Rasul. Before Jesus and Prophet Muhammad, there was no Rasul. Maybe there was a prophet, but not Rasul. I don't have time to explain the difference. There was no Rasul. But Allah says, why do you kill the messengers of God, the apostles of God? إِنَّمَا رَضُوا قَتْلَ أُولَئِكَ فَصُمُّوا قَاتِلِينَ. Because they were pleased with what happened to the prophets or messengers who were killed, they are counted as killers. When something happens and you are happy and pleased with that, you become involved. You are responsible morally. Maybe legally you are not responsible, but morally, spiritually, you are part of that. If a person today does something good in another part of the world, and you are happy with that, Allah rewards you. If someone does a crime and you are happy with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you. Of course, there are different levels of punishment. But you are responsible. Why you are pleased with that? Why you didn't try to stop that? This is why in one of the ziyarat, we say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep away from His mercy everyone who killed you, everyone who prepared, and everyone sami'at bidhalika faradiyat bih, who heard about this and was happy. What does it mean to be happy? One of ulama was saying something very nice. What does it mean to be happy? When something is happening and you say, I am happy or I am not happy. He said, to understand what does it mean to be happy or not happy, imagine that, God forbids, your child or your father, someone dear to you, has an illness. If you are happy with the illness, you don't do anything. You let him die. If you are not happy, what do? You just say, I am not happy. You do your best. You spend time, energy, money. If you don't have money, you go and borrow money. You sell your house, your car, so that you can pay for the operation. If there is poverty in the world and we are not happy, what does it mean? We eat our cholo kebab and curry and we say we are not happy with the poverty. We live, in an extravagant way and we are not happy. If we are not happy with poverty, you must not be relaxed, you must not be continuing your normal life. If injustice is going on and you are not happy, you have to stop it. So, if you are happy with what Imam Hussein alayhi salam did, what his companions did, in this meaning, it means that you are happy, so you are ready to give your life, your time, your energy, your money for that. You are ready to give everything for that. You are one of the companions of Hussein. Time is not a problem. Distance is not a problem. I assure you that a person who today has the same commitment like the people of that day, he is counted as a companion of Hussein. And if you don't have this commitment, even if you were alive there at that time, you would not be able to join Hussein. There were many people who were claiming to be follower of Hussein and Amir al-Mu'mineen. They didn't have tawfiq to remain with him. Some of them didn't join him, some of them joined him and left him. So, we have inshallah to gain this understanding of our Imams and the causes of Imam and the will of Imams, so that today we remain restless unless we make sure that we have done our best to achieve those causes. Inshallah, we'll continue this discussion tomorrow, and inshallah I will try to explain why there is so much stress on the connection between Imam Hussein and Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. This connection is very much, striking, draws attention. Why so much connection? I will give you some examples how they are connected and why they are connected.